Hello everyone. In the previous video we learned that how we can add the CSRF token and how we can get the values from by using this form data. So now the time is to fix this issue, why our values are not going to the server. So I find the issue. This is how we are sending this through this form, and we passed this form here, and we are passing this form into this data attribute. It's not attribute, it's an object, right? So basically what's going on, our this form is submitting, it's not overriding this variable, so we need to define this something different, form data, and let's copy this and pass this form data. So basically it's not overriding our variable, so it's passing this form, not this form. That's the issue. So here let's get refresh and submit this and check that our values are submitting on the server or not. So I'm sending the bit of the day, and here electronic, and let's save this, and clicked on twice, that's why it's displaying twice. Name is this one and type is this one, so it means that now our values are submitting to the server. So now the time is to go to the server and save them into the database. So before this we need to create a database and then connect our DB with our application. So I'm going to this MySQL, and here I'm going to create an request Ajax. So I'm naming this Ajax Laravel. It's very simple, I'm naming this very simple. Okay, let's go to the env file, and here you need to define this define your stuff in the env file. और यहाँ पे okay, I define this here, and let me name this root is good because when you are implementing this through XAMPP or PHP admin, its by default name is root and the password is empty. So now my database credential is good. I'm saving this, and my server will be auto restarted. And if you are doing this in the older version, so you need to pause your server once and then restart your server, because when you change something in the env file you need to restart your server. Okay, so then I'm going to create a category model and a migration. So you need to type php artisan make model, and what model we are going to create? We are going to create the category model, and we also want to create the migration of this create category. So we need to flag enter -m. So this will create the migration for this category model. So let's hit enter. First it's going to create the model, and then it's going to create the migration. And yes, it's creating the migration, it's under the process, but we can interact with this migration file. Okay, it's creating the id and timestamp. So and here we need to add these two columns. So the columns are, the first column would be the name column. Okay, this would be a string because we are going to save some text into this column, and let me name this properly. And then second would be the type. So we are saving this type, this would be also a string. So if you have limited to categories, so you can save them into 1 0 and define the constant on your model and get and convert them into the exact categories. But we in this case we have multiple categories, so we don't want to use this type of scenario. Okay, type, and then here we need to migrate our stuff. So it's still under the process. So first we need to go to the category model, and then I'm going to make this model fillable, right? So hope you are already familiar with this, why we are making this why we are going to add this into the fillable, because it's allow the Laravel to add them into the database. So first I'm going to add the protected fillable. It's a database, it's a model property, so we need to define all of our columns. So name, and then it would be a type. Okay, save this and go back, check that our migration is executed, and here we need to migrate our DB. I'm naming executing this php artisan migrate. Hit enter. So it's going to migrate all of our migration and then add these columns into our database. So let's get refresh in the MySQL and wait for a moment. Let's click on this Ajax call, and yes, now it's added these table. So let's go to this categories table. So it's going to add a name and type with timestamp and ID, and yes, we have added these properly. So now the time is to close this migration, close this env file, and here we are going to grab these values, but before this we are going to validate these value if user make them empty. So how we can validate the user? So here I'm not going to create any request because we have only two validations. You can also create the request, it's totally upon you. So this is just for demonstration purposes, so that's why I'm not going to create any type of complexity in this tutorial. So here you need to type required, and then you need to type here whatever validation you want to apply. So you can apply minimum, maximum, and it's totally upon you. So here I'm going to also define the type. So I'm defining their name and type. These all will be required, and here I'm going to just return the success for testing that we are getting this success or not. So let's get refresh, and we are not going to fill these values, and what's going to happen. So click on this add category, save, and it's throwing the error. Let's click on this. So name field is required, the type field is required. So now it's validating these values. So how we can display them to the user? We want to display them here. So how we can do this? So let's go here, go to this create blade, and in the create we added this error page, and we are getting this error in the console also. Let's go here, and in the error let me close this console again and save. So here we are getting that unprocessable entries, right? So let's click on this. I'm not going to click on this, I'm just going to grab these values. So let's click on this here. So in the response JSON we are getting this error array, and in the error arrays we have two keys. The first one is name and second one is type. So we need to grab these values one by one and display them on the form. So here you need to grab this value. So how you can grab its values? First we are going to check that if we are getting any error, then we are going to perform this action. So here I'm going to define error dot response JSON. Why I'm typing this response JSON? Because it's wrapped inside this response JSON, right? So then we need to define this error. So then I'm defining this errors, and then I need to define its key. So this would be a name. So I'm going to grab the name, and so it's done. Oh, okay. The name field is required. Okay, I'm going to grab this message. So let me console this message first, and then I'm going to implement this through DOM manipulation. So go back, get refresh, and test it out. Okay, I'm going to our jQuery is not loaded properly, that's why our this save btn is not working. So why it's not? It says that uncaught. Oh, I did a typo mistake. What's the mistake? Error dot console dot log. No, it's good. Oh, I did this if capital, that's why it's throwing this error. It's not telling us exactly what's going to happen. Okay, now it's good. Let's click on this save category, and it's now displaying us that the name field is required. So it means that we successfully got our message, right? So how we can implement this into our HTML tag? So let's go to the top, and here we are going to add a span. I'm going to add a span, and this span contain ID of name error. I added this ID, and then I'm going to also add a class text danger for color red, right? Save this one, and I'm also going to add this to this type. So when something would be happen in this type, so it's also going to throw us the error. Okay, so here we need to append this to this span. So how we can append this? So you need to type here, first you need to grab the id. So what's the id? So id would be the name error, and then you need to type html. So it's going to append the exact error. So what's the exact error? So exact error is this one, right? So let's copy this again for the type, and here we need to also make this type, and this would also type, right? Type, and now it's going to append this error to this span. So let me also check the video size. It's going bigger, but I'm explaining everything in the detail. So let's click on this category and click on this save, and yes, now it's exactly validating that name field is required, type field is required. If you add any type of validation here, so it will automatically pull this validation from the server side and display it into the client side. So here I'm going to add this minimum attribute 2, and maximum, you can add the maximum also. So maximum would be 30. So let's enter only 2 character. So I'm going to add this 2, save, and let me go there. Here I define the minimum 2, so let me add 1, and then I'm going to submit this request. Okay, it says that name must be at least 2 characters, so it means that it's getting the messages from the server side and implementing this to the form. So that's great. So we successfully validated our user. So now the time is to save this into the database. So what is our model? So our model name is category, and we are going to implement this into the next video because our video is going bigger and I don't want to bore my students, so that's why I will cover it in the next video. Bye bye.